going to call this committee to order, but I'm going to wish I could call it to order. That seemed to work. Now I'm going to call a committee to order. And the first order of business for the committee is public comment on any agenda items. So anyone from the public wishing to be heard on any of our agenda items, feel free to come forward.
Mayor, I think we have to quick approve our minutes from October 7th meeting.
Yeah, I had that number. I had that as the next item of business.
Oh, weird. Ours are different.
Oh, that's Land Bank. Sorry. Wrong group. Forget it. I'm not even on Land Bank.
Okay.
Okay. So first item is approval of our minutes from last meeting.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great. And that brings us to our first item, which is strategic discussion of the Black Business Voices Advisory Committee Framework and Engagement Efforts. That's a long agenda item title.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioner, City Manager, Alvin Hills from the Office of Equity and Engagement. I have the pleasure of introducing our guests from the Urban League, Legacy and Love, Grand Rapids African American Community Task Force that are here to provide an update on the Black Business Voices Advisory work that they've been doing with the city. Very important work, very essential work to help enhance our Black business ecosystem. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Eric Brown and Keith Morgan and Saini Jordan to share more.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Hills, guest on the dais, Mayor, City Manager, Commissioners. I'm glad to be before you guys again. Again, as Mr. Hills said, I have with me today Mr. Keith Morgan with the Urban League and Ms. Saini Gant Jordan representing Legacy and Love, Sisters in Development, and Grand Rapids. Yep, I thought you might have had other ones too, but anyway. In Grand Rapids African American Community Task Force, Mr. Rodney Brown, who could not be with us today. It's my pleasure to be before you. The agenda that we'll go through very, very briefly. Obviously, we'll talk about the BBVA 1.0, which was conceptual framework. BBVA 2.0 is when we were everybody loved the conceptual framework, and they said, hey, how do we operationalize this? How do we implement this? And so we'll go through how we've begun to implement the structure. We'll talk about progress to date in fiscal year 2025, and then obviously opportunity for question. Just a little bit of a history, as I'll be as brief as I can. This work started probably in 2018 or so, something like that, about 2018. About 2018 with our founding organizers, Grand Rapids African American Community Task Force and Legacy and Love LLC, excuse me. In many conversations, along with others, many conversations with City Manager. The Urban League was brought into the conversations in springish of 2023. We were able to, spring of 2022, we were able to enter into an agreement to do the first phase, which was kind of establish the conceptual framework of what was going to be happening going forward, is how can we lift up Black business voice, how can we be more inclusive, more representation, have more representation from our Black businesses within our community, obviously benefiting everybody. We talked a little bit, again, I'm going back a little bit, we talked about the tale of two cities, how the city is often and appropriately recognized as top 10, top 5, top 3, top 4 in many categories, but we talked about how, however, we have a tale of two cities for African Americans. A lot of times we're at the bottom of those lists that don't make various organizations around town because it's not something that we're necessarily proud of. We talked about how the city actually did a survey, and it was felt that there were these disparities exist, and we brought forth supporting data that supported that, yes, this is actually the case, that Black businesses are left out and Black residents are left out because of that. This is a slide that there's a lot going on here, but this is what we call the conceptual framework for Black Business Voice and Advisory Consortia. We see 11 organizations represented there across a continuum that goes from zero or startup all the way to exit or hopefully venture capital. We have other partners here as well that maybe didn't know about this, but they're part of this that are here today. So I'm glad to see that. We talked about after we did focus groups with Black businesses and Black ESOs, BSOs, and EDOs that provide support services for small black businesses. We would focus around marketing, mentoring, and advocacy. We know that in the future, we're looking to do some conferences and forums. We're establishing KPI goals. We'll talk a little bit about that more in the Brookings framework. And then overall, one of our things we want to accomplish is to decrease the racial wealth gap. Going back up to the organizations, as I mentioned, two of our founding organizations, Legacy and Love and Grand Rapids African American Community Task Force, have been working with the Urban League along the way, as well as these other organizations. They are somewhat on here, listed out the best we could on this representation, kind of the areas that they work in. We know that there's a lot of good startup services or providers and startup to the $250,000 range or so. But in our research, and we don't have time to go into it all today, but there are gaps that exist for those businesses trying to go from $250 to $1 million, and then from $1 million to the $5 million plus gap. We are constantly trying to get businesses to that exit phase where our partners that are here, New Community Transformation Fund, can then invest in and really take these businesses to grow and scale. So that was the framework that was presented on August 8th of 2023. After much negotiation with the city, we said, hey, let's continue this work. This is great work. So at the beginning of this year, we entered into what we call BBVA 2.0 to implement this conception framework. So we went from conception to implementation. Newsflash, we have changed the name from Black Business Voice. So Mayor, it's going to get longer a little bit, but we can abbreviate it with the acronym from BBVA, or Black Business Voice Advisory, to be a little bit more seeming inclusive West Michigan Black Business Alliance. We have developed an organizational framework for that. 7 pages. We're not going to share and go through it today, but members around the city have seen that framework and like what they see there. Framework, again, is supported by our founding organizing partners. So we have that framework to share. It's a multi-tiered membership, so we're ready to now expand beyond those 11 original organizations to invite many, many more to be able to partake in what's going to be helping create a regional inclusive economy. In the conceptual framework, we did mention Brookings Metro. A lot of folks are familiar with Brookings Institute, and they have a framework for helping to create a regionally inclusive economy. Now, we know that's important for West Michigan because it's probably our #1 economic development imperative. We've been told that externally. We know that internally. Won't go into detail here, but I think we can all agree that it is, and hope that we agree that it's our #1 economic imperative. Brookings, it's a 3-part system. If you guys remember, the first part, 1.0, was evaluating systems or understanding the systems. Where are we now? What's currently going on? What's the disparities exist? Second phase, which includes setting the conditions for success, which is institutional alignment. Then we have to intervene in those systems. If we want something to change, obviously we know we have to intervene in those. And then the third part is, what are the measurements to that system in order to, how are we measuring success? Brookings Metro Inclusive Regional Methodology, again, in the setting conditions phase, we want to commit to inclusive economic growth. That has to be a commitment across the community that we have to do it. It's an imperative. We got to take stock of existing indicators and projects. We know there's a lot going on. There's a lot of things going in silos. How do we bring and bridge all that together? And then identify key stakeholders and roles. What organizations are necessary? We know the Urban League cannot do it alone. And even with our founding partners, we cannot do this work alone. We have to have broad community support. The city can't do it alone, but we do hope that the city will be a co-champion in this work with us. Did I go the wrong way? I went the wrong way. So these are just a few of the organizations that we have identified. Won't go into detail, the quadrants, but there's a major influence and control, limited control and influence, essential to driving change, and then on the vertical axis, important to driving change. You see that the city is there, Urban League, Grand Rapids African American Community Task Force, Legacy and Love, along with other leading organizations, Corewell Health, the largest employer in the state, The Right Place, our leading economic development organization, Meyer, GVSU, and others. Again, this is for a collective work. There's also other leaders within the community listed there, the DeVos family, the Chamber, Hispanic Chamber, other ESOs, BDOs, and EDOs, Janinoa. We talked about this is more regional, so the county needs to get involved with this work, other small businesses, and other foundations and organizations that this is important work for. And then, so I'll turn it over to Keith Morgan to talk a little bit more about the success to date.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you for having us up. Mayor LeGrand, city manager, and commissioners. When we look at the advocacy and the implementation of 2.0, how do we do this work? There are really two different areas that we focused on, the advocacy and marketing awareness. From an advocacy standpoint, we've built the key connections and structures. We share calendar, equity alignment. We've also looked at economic development conditions in order to be able to advocate for effectively implementing small businesses across the city, making sure that they are being serviced. From a marketing standpoint, we've strengthened visibility from promoting the city programs, supporting business compliances, sharing different opportunities, and laying the groundwork for a unified business ecosystem here in the city, in the area. When we look at breaking these things down, we do have a key at the bottom right, kind of let you know from the different areas that we set out to achieve what's on track and what still needs attention. One of the things I'm happy to and excited to inform you on is that these two areas, from an org framework and implementation of the Brookings methodology, we've successfully completed all the tasks that we set out to. So one of the things that we're doing, we're seeking to lead that coalition to an effort to develop and implement a shared framework for that inclusive regional economy. Some of the guidelines that we set are equity as economic strategy, shared leadership, data-informed action, community-driven solutions, and accountability and transparency. As you can see on these different areas, different keys, we have successfully accomplished all these areas, and we stay on track in those areas. If we move forward to our programming and the promotion of city programming as well as a directory, excited to say that the two main areas are on track. There are a couple areas that we have identified that could use some more attention, and one of the things that we've done is not only found out what we're doing well, but looked at the opportunities. And here we've highlighted in yellow some areas that we see that we can improve on. These two areas, or the three areas that we have listed out, we do know that we can, through self-assessment, we can improve gathering feedback, gathering analytics, and outreach strategies. So as we're looking at areas that we could improve on, utilizing different software, MailChimp, in order to be able to grab and aggregate analytics is something that one of the things that we could do to improve in these areas. Outside of that, we still have, and are excited to say that we are on track for both of these areas. We've got a couple different examples of some successes that we have. We want to highlight three businesses that we have been working with that we were able to bring on board and get connected with the city. Through that connection, they were actually able to attain contracts. So if we look at Michael Taylor, owner of Prominent Properties, he was able to receive a contract for $73,000, allowing him to bring on 2 more employees. Todd McLemore, LLC, able to get a contract for Grand Rapids Christian Schools for $98,000, and then Seve Hernandez, FCF Construction, was able to bring in a contract through Seaman Boys and Girls Club of Grand Rapids for over $100,000 and 4 additional employees. If we start looking at the numbers, what does that mean? That's an added value of almost $300,000 in revenue to these businesses. When we look at the businesses' current revenue that they are have stated and provided us the information with, that is a whopping 43% growth over their current revenue that they have. So these 3 businesses started with a combined annual revenue of $644,000. By the time we were done, we were able to get those contracts. These businesses were able to impact and grow their annual revenue to $921,000. So just under $1 million in revenue. Another summary on how we've been able to engage for 2025, the events that we were able to implement. We have over 20 events, and this number at some point we're continuing to have events that are going on. I think since the time we finalized the numbers here, there may be another event that's added on, but it really gives you a good general idea on what we've been able to accomplish. 771 participants, as well as 6 events that we've done with the City of Grand Rapids, and through our partners, we're also able to have one of the tour events, the Economic Development Initiative events, that has 62 people that were involved there. When we look at these last 3 areas, we're proud to present to you that our work with these last 3 initiatives, rounding out our successful completion of all the initiatives. Here, we look at some of the 3 areas. Some of the areas, again, we have a couple areas that we could utilize some attention and improve upon. It goes back to what we just talked about a couple minutes ago on how do we aggregate the information, how do we collect it, so that's the analytics and then the software that we're using in order to be able to pull that. But some things I want to highlight that are listed here is, as seen earlier, again, we're proud that we can inform you that 2025, we've been able to connect 14 businesses directly to the city. Out of those 14 businesses, it breaks down into 4 businesses were brand new businesses that were just developed this year. 10 of them were existing businesses for a combined $6.7 million in what they have in current revenue right now. And those businesses represent 36 different employees. So for that business. 2 areas that we have assessed that will allow us to build further upon these successes were the ones that we just talked about. Interestingly enough, one of the things we're also proud of is underneath business directories. We do have a business directory with over 600 businesses that have been scrubbed and purified. The only reason why that needs attention is it is a document that lives on a spreadsheet, so there's an opportunity for us to have it where it is live for anybody to update 24 hours a day. As we start looking at how do we move forward, long-standing data shows that Grand Rapids is one of the hardest places for Black residents to prosper and underscore the urgency of equity work. So closing that racial gap could add about $92 billion in state economic output annually, according to Kellogg's Foundation. We also know that national models like the Brookings Metro demonstrate the inclusive regions are more competitive and resilient. So I'm preaching to the choir, but Urban League and West Michigan Black Business Alliance is looking to be a trusted connector that brings communities, businesses, and governments together. We also apply national best practices to the framework in order to position the West Michigan Black Business Alliance as being part of the tip of the spear for that economic growth. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Brown to kind of cover what is next.
So real quick, wrapping up, what are we asking? We're asking for the city to partner with West Michigan Black Business Alliance. Again, the name change from BBVA, I know that was long-standing for 2 years, but we want to be more inclusive and grow this to be West Michigan Black Business Alliance. We need you to be the co-champion and align with primarily 2 strategies. West Michigan Black Business Alliance, the organizational framework, right now would be housed underneath the Urban League's umbrella. Again, it can be launched out in the future as that grows. And then also with the more expansive Regional Inclusive Economy Initiative, using Brookings framework, again, encompassing many other partners, support visible city backing to help unlock local, regional, state, and philanthropic resources. We believe there's opportunities out there to take something like this even all the way up to the state level to get support, be it both political support, but also financial support, because as we mentioned, it not only what affects West Michigan is going to affect the entire state. Collaborate on targeted funding opportunities to ensure that that we're able to, this thing is able to go much into the future. And then align our efforts to scale, demonstrate successes. Keith talked about some of the things. Again, that was just a little bit of the tip of the iceberg of what we've been able to do in this short period of time with limited resources. We believe that we can expand that so that we can really increase economic mobility for residents and business owners to help create a more inclusive economy where everyone prospers, which is, my understanding, one of the goals of our city and our region is that everybody's going to be able to thrive and prosper. Thank you, and we'll entertain any questions.
Yeah, my first question, how much resource support does the city of Grand Rapids put into this program annually at this point?
The 1.0 was $50,000 and 2.0 was $125,000, a total of $175,000.
And how about the cities of Wyoming and Kentwood?
Zero to date.
Okay, why rename it then? If this is something only we're supporting, why are we calling it regional in West Michigan if it's not really regional in West Michigan?
Well, the goal is for it to be a regional West Michigan, and to date, again, the city has. This is where we're saying, hey, the city, go with us. Go with the Urban League, too. I actually have done a presentation to the city of Wyoming. I was invited there to do a similar thing about a year and a half ago. I think that has to be more of a collective effort. Hey, if the city wants to own it, the city can, well, look, if the city wants to be the primary supporter, the city is more than welcome to be the primary supporter. I think that we will have follow-up meetings on what that looks like from resources and all that other kind of stuff. We think it has to be more regional. But we definitely see the city as one of the leaders in there. I mean, without the city of Grand Rapids, I'll just leave that there. Without the city of Grand Rapids, ...
No, I guess my question is like, what's your plan for getting other government entities actually to provide some funding for this?
Oh, we'll have similar like presentations, maybe even somebody with the city of Grand Rapids to go with us to do those presentations. That's where it opens up to much more. When I say regional, obviously it's the city, but yes, definitely a countywide, and maybe going on into MSA or Tri-County kind of deal.
Ottawa County?
Ottawa County.
Go get Ottawa Impact support for this?
Hey, I think $29 billion annually for the state is pretty much a pretty good incentive.
Yes, I guess one of my questions was along that alignment. If you're changing the name to West Michigan, that encompasses all of West Michigan. And so part of it is, I got a lot of questions. So how do you engage the rest of West Michigan to be a part of this if the city has already put in, would you say $175,000?
Total of $175 over 3 years.
$175 already. How come we have not connected with the county, with Wyoming, with Kentwood, with all of West Michigan, right? Because this is what we're saying if you're changing the name. Pulling these other people in to be a part of this. And then I'm looking at like slide 6. I'm like, obviously with Mr. Hills here, it's in direct alignment with the MLBE program, which has really been trying to do a lot of that work here at the city. So where are the gaps? If you're wanting to grow and do all that, where are the gaps between the connection with who you have already within the city that's helping to move this process forward?
Hold on one second.
And I'm probably throwing them all at you at once because
Yeah, can I answer those first two?
Go for it.
All right, so the first two, the name, again, this is something that we're proposing right now. The Urban League serves a tri-county area. So the Urban League is going to do this work to some level, hopefully with the city's support or not. I think it's going to go, what's the adage? Go far, without being, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I think we have to go together in doing that. So name, it can be Greater Grand Rapids. I would just say that there is, for those that know the history of the Black Chamber, we have a Hispanic chamber. The history of the Black Chamber, there is probably 40 or so names that have been locked down. That cannot be used because we don't have access to those names. They've been locked down by a different entity. So that's the name thing. Why it hasn't, it's been teased out. Again, the work was originated with the city because the initial thing was to help increase Black business activity with the city. Okay, if it's good for the city, then we can then take that into the greater community, which we're at that step now to go to the greater community. We can show that we have successes that we can scale, and we can go now to other businesses. Not that we're not doing that. We haven't made hard, concrete asks, but when you talk about implementing a Brookings type strategy, that is a comprehensive strategy that takes multiple organizations to be involved in. And quite frankly, we hear 175. That hasn't really even covered the surface, to be quite honest. There has been a lot of investment in kind that the Urban League has contributed on its own as well. So, I mean, when we talk about 175 and the man hours that have been put into this, it's something that can be foundational for our community. Again, that's really a small drop in the bucket. You had more, you said.
So, yeah, and I'm going to come back to that statement. So do you have the plan you said you all, for the framework, do you have the plan with the tiers, the levels for all of that already outlined? And how can we see what that looks like? Because,
Yes, we will get that over to AJ today. AJ and others in the city have seen that organizational, and they gave us a, kind of preliminary thumbs up. Yeah, they've given us, and Sierra Renero has seen that, given us a preliminary thumbs up. It's 7 pages. It's a complete framework. We can get that over there to them today, right, Keith? Yep.
okay, and then,
It was just 7 pages, so we knew that our time was limited today.
oh, no, it just would have been helpful to be able to see that alongside this, but
Understood.
we'll
Yeah.
wait to get that when we do. And then for the success stories, now help me understand. I understand the engagements and the outreach and the different things that you've been doing in connection with some of the city departments, but how do you equate the revenue or the increase in revenue when you talk about the success stories? Because some of these people were already in business. So is the Urban League then putting that money that they got from the city towards these people, these particular businesses, or where are they getting it from? Are they getting it from the CDFI, or is it just a connection that you happen to make with an organization? And it helped them land that job.
A little bit, I'll pull back out and then I'll pull back in. So at the Urban League, we've been able to have some MEDC funds that we've been able, again, that's the way that we're able to do some of this work. But to be specific with the city, there has been issues in people not passing the compliance, but going through the things that they have to be doing, filling out the paperwork and all those type of things. So we've helped at least 14 businesses do that, 10 of which were already existing. So they were already in business, but they weren't connected with the city. 4 that started during this year that were now, again, connected with the city to the tune over $6 million worth of revenue and 36 employees. So yes, we promote Marvin Martin, who is our program manager. He works very closely with the economic, I forget the names of the offices. You guys know the offices. Right now, I can't recall them, but all the offices with the city to make sure that these opportunities are getting promoted out to our over 600 businesses. So yes, to be succinct, we work directly with on the city's initiatives as far as all the offices in its purchasing and procurement.
So you were the conduit, but not the funder, or you were the conduit and the funder?
We were a connector, and again, with being able to combine that with some MEDC funds and not really much from the CDFI. I mean, we do have technical assistance funds there, but those funds really weren't used in this capacity. The goal is for those businesses can grow, and then yes, from our CDFI, we can then help them even scale even further. But we were the connector and somewhat of yes, we were a connector. Thank you. Going back to 2.0, real quick, 1.0, one of the barriers that was identified was that, in gaps, was that although the city had the micro MLBE programs, I'm very familiar with that and is very supportive of that. Actually, we're doing a joint bonding thing coming up later on this month with the city. Still, a lot of the small contractors who work 12, 14 hours a day still were having barriers as far as going through the paperwork. So.
Okay. I think that was kind of it. It'd be interesting to see what some of the implemented KPIs are.
So, and we don't have that slide,
and
do
the
we?
impact of those.
So, real quick on the KPIs, I know we didn't bring it up today, and we won't bring it up, but there's, in the Brookings framework, there's probably 15 different categories of, help me out, 15 different categories of KPIs that as a community, because there's been talk about what do we measure, how do we measure, what's right for 2015. I just will give you guys, this is my unashamed MLK 2019, January 19th. Yeah, 15 different categories of KPIs that we as a community can select from how we're going to measure regional economic impact. The Urban League has studied the 2015 report. We're ready to present apples to apples on the metrics that were used in, what have been suggested as better metrics on that very same data. We're expanding that along with Black Think Tank and Black MBA Association to a couple different more metrics, and then also with the Urban League's equity index at a national level. There's other indicators that we'll tease out at our MLK breakfast, January 19th, 2026. Everybody get your tickets, be there. And then also during Black History Month, we're going to dive further into those metrics. But again, for this to be even a citywide thing, all those organizations and more that were listed in that quadrants have to agree on what those KPIs are, or otherwise it's just going to be, for lack of a better term, he say, she say.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for the presentation. On slide number 12, the EDI tour, can you elaborate? Is that the Equitable Development Initiative? What is that?
No, that was actually it was kind of birthed out of the Equitable Developer Initiative, the EquiDev, which we have in partnership with Fry and Housing Next. But it was a brainchild of one of our founding organizing partners, Ms. Sini Gann Jordan, to do. There is a citywide, everybody's familiar with the citywide, I think, is Developer Day Tour.
Right.
What she organized with the support of Ms. James from the Urban League was a similar thing for small scale developers. And a lot of the projects that were in our equitable development were featured in that.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Thanks for this presentation. Was it, 2 years ago that the 1.0 was presented, or last year? I'm trying to remember.
Well, 1.0 was presented, this date is burned in my mind forever, August 8, 2023.
Okay, I was going
We
to say.
did have a follow-up. We did have a follow-up subsequent to that. Yep,
Yep,
you're right.
okay, I was going to say, I remember that. I just had two quick questions. One, so you mentioned like the 2015 study. Were you saying that the goal is to help recreate that, to have comparative, or is that a different study you're talking about?
So that's really separate. Again, you guys getting a lot of bit of tidbits. The Urban League is working on the state of Black West Michigan. Those that are familiar with the Urban League National, there's a state of Black America. We're working on the state of Black West Michigan.
Got it.
However, we are, part of it is going to be the comparison of the infamous, famous Forbes 2015 report, comparing apples to apples, the metrics that were used then, 2015 to 25, where we stand
Okay,
as a city.
got it.
And then what are better metrics, oranges to oranges.
Yeah, that was. Do you have something to add, City Manager? I was just going to say that was going to be my question, is if there was going to be a plan, because 2015 is like, as crazy as it sounds, like over a decade at this point. So, and I know there's been so much good work done within the community to uplift all of our local businesses across the community. So I would be interested at some point to see the apples to apples comparison with that, to see what areas still need attention, like where they're still, where we've had successes, because I'm sure there have been some too. So that'll be really exciting to see if and when it's made possible. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think every year around February, that same story resurfaces about progress that has been made. And I was fortunate to go to the summit that the Urban League helped to co-host a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. And there was a national database that was demoed that compared business opportunity for people of color and the community compared to other cities. And I was very pleased to hear some of the progress that has been made, but yet still some of the things that we have to work on. So perhaps, I know we don't have the full briefing here, but some of those highlights could be helpful in being shared with the City Commission.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I'll lean on that too. I think that having looked at the Forbes article, letting a random newspaper article define economic criteria for the city is not really your best move. Addressing wealth gap issues and opportunity issues is really where we want to be, whereas some of their criteria, one of the big things Forbes said was there was about a I believe a $20,000 earnings gap between white members of the community and black members of the community, and then they said, like, black members of the Grand Rapids community earn a lot less than black members of the community in Atlanta. Well, that's also true for white members of the Grand Rapids community versus white members in Atlanta. So, like, there's a sector gap in wages, but it's also true that, like, everybody makes more in Atlanta, to put it a little crudely. So saying people make more money in Atlanta is not exactly a pronouncement of failure on Grand Rapids generally. The question is, like, whether there's unequal distribution of wealth and whether we're growing wealth. And similarly, if our focus is on growing wealth in all the communities in our in our city, measuring things like home ownership isn't necessarily the best measurement, because, if people in the community are really investing their money in the stock market and decide not to own houses, that's not going to be a bad thing. So home ownership is a really incomplete measure of wealth. And so I think that, global measures of net worth in the community are really the questions we want to be getting at. And, I'm sure this is the space you live in, so I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but fundamentally, I think building a community-wide picture of what's going on and what we need to improve is better than taking a news article and accepting their metrics. I think we can do better I think we can do better than that Forbes article on really measuring where we need to move, where we need to focus.
Yes, and what the think tank in Urban League, with the help of DataWise, came up with is it's expanded 6 different measures that measure those things. We do know home ownership is foundational for wealth. It may be then translated to other things within the stock market and things like that. But we've expanded that to at least 6 measures right now, to how we can compare. And just a little bit of a tidbit, it expanded to like 64 like-size regions as well. Like-size and larger regions. So it went from 52 to 64. We weren't second from the bottom, but we weren't nowhere. We're still in the bottom third. Improvement, yes. Yep, I agree. There are things that we have improved on, but it does spell out. And the cool thing about this will give us specific things about if we want to increase whatever by whatever, this is what we need to do. If we want to increase home ownership, this is how many homes, et cetera. So yes, that's what's coming. That's what I'm trying. That's what I'm news flashing or whatever. That's not the word. Teasing out, I guess, the word I'm looking for. That's what we're teasing out there. But again, that's a little bit of work. That's a little bit separate what the Urban League is doing. It all combines there together, but yes.
Are you doing your gong show thing here? And
No. I wanted to say when part of me supporting this work in 1.0 was to refine the comparative data, not on 2015, but where we are today, because I believe a lot of effort has gone into trying to improve livability and business viability. And again, when I saw Dr. Perry preview that national database, let me also credit the Black MBA Association for helping to co-host that. It is a story I think we all need to be aware of, because all we have heard so far is the 2015 data point. And that, to me, gives us some hope that we are headed in the right direction, need to continue to do more of the same.
Absolutely. I think the 2015 is one of the things, like the Kellogg's couple reports that we cite often about where we're at and how we can improve. So yes, I agree.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That brings us to an update from the Performance Fund for the new Community Transformation Fund. See, we have Mr. Welch.
What is it?
Hello, everyone.
You're letting someone else set the mic up for you.
Is Ms. Ranero? Ms. Ranero, are you coming to introduce this?
Yes, sorry for the indecisiveness there. This is a presentation on the new Community Transformation Fund, which is an investment the City of Grand Rapids made in 2023 of $100,000, and Abid and Scott are here to give you an update. Thanks.
And good afternoon, Mayor, City Manager, Commissioners. Scott Welch, co-founder of the New Community Transformation Fund, and of course our Managing Director, Abid Ali, as well. And just want to say thank you again for your time, and just briefly give you an update. Of course, we have been successful, and Abid will give you more on that for Fund 1, but we want to talk about Fund 2, and of course the city being a partner in that as well. Some years ago, my friend and I, Birgit Close, who was at the time the head of the Right Place program, we got together over lunch and talked about how we could help to create in some way generational wealth, at least a catalyst mechanism to create generational wealth within communities of color. And out of that came New Community Transformation Fund. It's not quite that easy, but for the matter of time. So we are here now just to kind of give you an update, and again, just to kind of revisit, as you can see on the screen there, our focus is creating opportunities, creating jobs, and creating wealth for overlooked funders. And so Ab is going to speak to our current portfolio. We're actually growing and have an opportunity to expand our reach and our impact. And as our amazing colleagues from the Urban League of West Michigan talked about, we consider ourselves part of that ecosystem that they just addressed as well, in a way that adds, at least in some small part, to the efforts that they're already doing successfully. So, but suffice to say that we started this very, very clearly to fit on the other end of the continuum for funding. Organizations are great in terms of what they need at times of startup, but as you know, panel and officials, our focus is actually the larger dollars. When organizations have some road up underneath their tires, they need a higher and a larger investment of cash, and that's where the New Community Transformation Fund has positioned itself. And so I'll turn it over to Abid. He'll give you some metrics and success of what we have done so far. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Hey, everyone. My name is Abid. I'm the Managing Director for New Community Transformation Fund. To say in simple words, we have been very busy in delivering our mission. Scott mentioned our success metrics, which again, creating opportunities, creating jobs, and creating wealth for overlooked founders. That's the boundaries that we operate under, in every decision that we make, whether it's investing, whether it's personnel decision, is focused on delivering on those success metrics. So over the last 12 months, we have been extremely busy. We looked at roughly 1,200 plus opportunities. These opportunities come from various sources. These include research universities, co-investors that we have served on the board, and other financial locators in the state. Out of all those opportunities, we invested in 8 companies. And the purpose of being highly selective is to balance 2 things. Not only we want to have a positive impact that we highlighted in the slide earlier, but also we want to create a financial return, because in our belief, that's the way to have a sustainable model that can continue to exist for years and years down the road. In total, we have deployed $3.3 million across 12 portfolio companies, an average check size of roughly around $421,000 per company. These are some of the stories in the next 2 slides that highlight the impact that we have had on these portfolio companies. And specifically, we have also highlighted what work these companies have done in the city of Grand Rapids. So the first company from our portfolio, Honeycomb Credit, the problem they are trying to solve is to help small businesses on the main street get funding. Currently, if you're a small business owner, you have limited sources of borrowing. You can either go to a community bank and borrow money, which if you're a first-time borrower, have stringent requirements. As a result, you have alternative source, which is point-of-sale platform, that will give you a loan, but at 50-40% interest. That's super predatory, and that impacts how the business can sustain forward. So Honeycomb Credit built a fintech platform with proprietary credit metrics, so they're able to raise capital through their customers. So for example, your favorite restaurant, if they need to expand their kitchen, Honeycomb equips them with marketing tools to go raise money from their patrons. So NCTF invested in Honeycomb to build that platform, but not only that, for every business in the west side of the state, as well as in Grand Rapids, if they are able to raise first 50% of their campaign goal or the money they want to raise, NCTF will come in and match the remaining 50% up to $20,000. In the last 6 months, we have funded 3 businesses, Daddy Dough Cookies, Skin Studio, and Noodle Pig. Those are the businesses that are in the community, that are expanding. They are making hires in the state. The second business that NCTF from our portfolio is Opener. It's a marketplace for musicians. NCTF investment in Opener, as well as Dre, unlocked additional $350,000 of new capital. We were the first venture fund that invested in the company. As a result, it unlocked additional dollars. Dre & Opener is based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, hired 2 part-time employees, and had their first revenue-generating quarter. Not only that, the platform also helps artists that are in the community find jobs with different concert locations. So we have a new big performance or new artists coming in presenting or like performing in Grand Rapids. They can work with a local artist, a local sensation, and find them that job and give them that exposure through their platform. Again, it's a marketplace platform. It's very challenging, very capital intensive. We understand that. But if NCTF didn't exist, Opener most likely would struggle raising additional capital. Hollow Footwear, the business was in Pacific Northwest. They relocated to Grand Rapids, Michigan. When we first started tracking Hollow Footwear, they were at $2 million in revenue. This year, they will end the year at $23 million in revenue. NCTF has been one of their biggest funders. And not only that, when we look at Hollow Footwear, the financial story is awesome, but they are taking advantage of athlete empowerment era. One of their marquee athletes is Isaac Okoro, who plays for Chicago Bulls and wears Hollow Footwear shoe on an NBA court. So when a kid in the audience looks at Isaac Okoro and be like, oh, that's a cool shoe, where is this company based out of? They will look Grand Rapids, Michigan. So not only financial impact is awesome, and yes, we want to have a financial return for the state dollars, but not only that, it also allows people to learn about Grand Rapids, Michigan. And frankly, growing up in Miami, Florida, I didn't know about Grand Rapids, Michigan till I started working and seeing this beautiful city, and now obviously I live here. So it's a great story. Hollow Footwear shoes are in Dick's Sporting Goods, Nordstrom, REI, and all the Meijer stores. Some of the other companies, Blast Point, Hummus Goodness, and Rice Kid, I'll be pretty quick on these and happy to talk about these in detail in the Q&A section. Blast Point is an AI platform that helps utility companies take advantage of data to make decisions on grid upgrades, grid maintenance, and not only that, also engage with their customers better, whether it's engaging with a customer who's about to default on their utility bill payment, or there's a customer who should engage in a new promotion that the utility company is putting forward for their customers. Hummus Goodness, this was an exciting story. We traditionally do not do CPG brand, but Hannah, she's just an absolute pit bull. She's like, hey, you said no to my deal, that's fine, but just try my hummus. So she sends us hummus over during our IC meeting, and as soon as we tried her food, we were like, okay, there's something here. Let's bring her in, look at her numbers. And little did we know that she started selling hummus on the back of her van, and now she's in every single Meijer store across the country. She's in Delta Sky Lounges, so if you all are traveling and you have lounge access, I do not, but the hummus that's in there is Hannah's Hummus. And also she's expanding with Kroger, and hopefully in near future in 2026, she will be also expanding into Whole Foods, fingers crossed. NCTF, again, was the first venture dollar that came into the company that unlocked additional $200,000 of capital for Hannah. And now hopefully she can scale towards generating $2.5 million in 2025. So she's on track. She's at $2.3 million right now. Rice Kid, it's economic mobility through hiring. This is the company that is based out of Chicago. Their initial market was the surrounding regions, but due to NCTF's investment, how we structured the investment was incentivize them to move part of their operations, part of their team in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So that's the impact that financial dollars can have on these different businesses. So I spoke a lot about our legacy, but what's our future? For Fund 2, we are the only fund in West Michigan to receive a commitment from Michigan Strategic Fund of $9.8 million. This was 15-month diligence process. They came to our offices. We went through multiple interviews, presented to the various groups of decision makers, and they committed $9.8 million. However, those $9.8 million are only active if we can fundraise matching capital. And again, our thesis going forward will be investing in early stage, underrepresented founders, overlooked founders. On this page, we talk about our thesis, the areas that we will invest in: advanced manufacturing, life science, software, and some of the similar companies you saw. The added focus as part of this fund will be to be focused on pre-seed companies. So by definition, pre-seed companies are the companies that have an idea, that have an initial product, and they need funding to test their product out. In the state of Michigan, period, there are single-digit pre-seed funds. As a result, a lot of companies that are founded in the state of Michigan, they never end up raising money in Michigan. So they usually move to the West Coast or bigger East Coast cities. So our hope is that by having a fund that is focused on pre-seed, we can hopefully alleviate that problem. We cannot solve it ourselves, but we can alleviate that. And then build a pipeline for successful businesses and entrepreneurial communities in later stage through our initial investment. The portfolio will be of 13 to 15 companies, and you'll be seeing 3 to 5 companies every year. This is the NCTF team that is focused on this initiative. You met Scott. We all know Birgit. Dale Grogan, he's an investor, have over 20 years of experience myself, and we are supported by the strong investment committee that have community leaders from 42 North, Mercantile Bank, Corwell Ventures, ITC Michigan, Rockford. So these are the people that approve every single investment that goes into our portfolio. And these are the people that bring unique expertise. As you can see, these are diverse group of skill set. So that helps us address and do very good diligence in each of our portfolio company. Michigan Capital Network team is really managing this fund. And part of the expertise that comes in here is like the skill set of the people. Sapna Patel, aerospace engineer, Jenny Lee, PhD from Northwestern chemical engineer, Megan Mom, Michigan Ross undergrad, and a strong operational support team to perform audits, check and balances, and some of the legal diligence work. So I will open up the floor for questions and happy to go back to any of the slides and talk in detail.
Right.
This is great. Thank you for the presentation. Just wondering, after the presentation from the Urban League right before you, is how do you all cross-pollinate and partner to help them support the work that they're trying to do with this initiative, right, across the city? Because it feels like you have all these, I mean, my colleague is in the back of the room, and she runs another CDFI, and the Urban League has a CDFI, and then you all, for all intents and purposes, sorta, right?
Right.
And so I'm just sitting here thinking about, as they're trying to scale this kind of pipeline connectivity to small businesses, trying to expand and grow across the city and or West Michigan, these different pots of money that are available for people to tap into, where's the synergy in working with that that group to help expand on, right? Because they were talking about, how much money that they're getting from the city. They want more from the city, but of course it's West Michigan that we're talking about, or at least that they're proposing. So this is all a part of West Michigan, right?
Right, yeah. And see, we operate, thanks Commissioner Knight, we actually operate, when we first started the fund, we looked at the entire kind of the canvas of it, and we saw that our opportunity was to be kind of further down the spectrum for the larger dollars. I think we do a really pretty good job in the community around startups and kind of to those parts, but this is where we thought we could add value. But we've always, Eric and I, we've been friends for years, and Keith Morgan, so we really are looking at this to be, it's one of the contributors to a stronger ecosystem. And if we can, and we believe we're getting there collectively, when we can actually, as we're recasting our brand as a region, we want folks to know that you can come to West Michigan and get some serious dollars and serious investment. And if you have an idea in your head, we've got folks that can help you get it on the paper all the way up to where you need $1.5 million in investment. And so we look at ourselves as part of the collective, right? It's the overall brand promise that we're trying to contribute in terms of what NCTF brings. It's our entire region we want to really show off and show well. And so, Abid, literally, we were talking to Eric before we even started this meeting, and he sent something. He was at a conference. He sent me a text about a family he met that was in credit risk analysis. I sent it to Abid. in Abbott's, we're talking to that gentleman on the phone. So we really try to be very, very accurate. And one of the things, at least for me, we try to get to yes. That's the thing. Hollow Footwear story is a little bit unique in that they came to us 3 times. But each time they met the milestone we asked them to accomplish, and that 3rd time, it worked. And you see, it's just, the momentum is pretty amazing. We also provide not just the financial part of it, Commissioner Knight, but also we also look at it's not just about the capital. So sometimes we'll lend or just spend our time talking with entrepreneurs. They may not be ready to meet us at NCTF yet, but our goal is to prepare them to do so. And so not just financial resources do we invest, we also invest our relationships, our networks as well, because if everybody wins and we win together. And so that's how we really look at ourselves as a fund to contribute to the overall community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Any other questions, folks? All right, thanks for the overview. Appreciate it. And that brings us to our update from the Development Center.
Of course I drop it. That's fine. There we are. All right, good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, and City Manager. Just get to my report here. So one of the things I want to highlight that's not necessarily shown in our KPIs this month is our work on reducing the delay time in inspections. Thanks to the great work that we were able to do with our HR department and this body as well. We've been able to reduce our electrical inspection delay from what was about nine days when I last reported down to 3. So we've got all our new inspectors trained and out in the field, and it's going very, very well. So we're very excited about that. Also just wanted to highlight, we are obviously continuing to have a record-breaking year when it comes to construction value, just shy of $1 billion this year, which is the highest we've ever seen here in the city of Grand Rapids. Review timelines are staying fairly steady as well, and we're also starting to see some of the housing units that have been in kind of the pipeline starting to show up in the approval category as well. So as far as permit activity, it is slowing down, so there's not a lot on the report this month, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have regarding those.
Yeah, thanks. I guess my first question would be, how recent is that electrical permit review number pulling down? Is that like last week?
As of this morning.
Okay.
Yep.
And we were still hanging around a couple weeks, as recently as a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, last time I reported out, the number was at about 8-9 days out, so.
Yes. I'm a little confused by one of the graphs.
Sure.
I was looking at, and I guess, I'm not dying to disaggregate data even further, but I appreciate you disaggregating out the construction value by DDA and non-DDA. It makes the first ward look like a huge success story in terms of their proportion of the investment. And I had a couple questions about that. One is, do you have any sense of how much of that is west side and how much of it is south side?
I don't off the top of my head, but I can disaggregate that down a little bit further if you'd like.
The second ward is sort of schizophrenic in this effect, in the sense that it has some of downtown and some non-downtown. Third ward doesn't have any downtown, but the third ward is maybe tripolar in the sense that it's got some of downtown, it's got South Division Corridor, which really is not the west side, and then it's got the west side. So it's almost got 3 different areas, all of which are really, really different from each other. So I'd be interested in knowing that story a little deeper. Yeah, and that's a follow-up question, I guess. The other thing I was just simply confused by was, if I'm looking at those PowerPoint circles, but then I looked at the you had a graph. So it looked like First Ward was strongest there, but then there was a graph that seemed to, I'm looking at the 24-month building permit by ward number on the first spiky thing on packet page 7. So year-to-date, this one.
It's the one up at the
Oh,
top.
thank you. Appreciate that.
So maybe I'm misreading that graph, but I was just looking at the 2025 and saying how the First Ward looked like it was, outstripping everything else, but that's not how that graph looks at all. At least, yeah, I mean, the first Ward looks like the smaller of the three, all the way from the beginning of the year forward, and there's 3 spikes, but it's always got, the Third Ward seems to be the top of the spike the whole year. Am I misreading that graph somehow?
So it's a stacked visualization of that information, so.
Sorry?
It's a stacked visualization of all that information, so
Right.
the First Ward volume kind of carries the other wards up as we ride up that spike, so that the Second Ward and the Third Ward quantity is on top of.
I
as well.
see. So the Second Ward is just a sliver for a lot of that activity. The
Correct.
Third Ward looks like a portion, but the First Ward is driving the investment. Got it. Okay. Thank you. I didn't understand the graph.
Mayor? First of all, I think there are several things to celebrate in this report. One is the indication that he shared earlier, almost $1 billion investment indicates a good, strong economy in light of all this fiscal uncertainty that we have had from the federal level. And so I think that story needs to be told often and outside of this room. So I'm pleased to hear that it's our 4th or 5th year in a row since the pandemic showing strong economic recovery. Secondly, I want to thank you and our planning director for really focusing on solving the challenges we've had with the competitiveness in this economy, turnover, and really sourcing externally as well as staffing internally to help with the, excuse me, the inspector work. As I recall, 9 days was a progress report, but we were further behind multiple weeks. So can you remind me how far,
That is correct. Excuse me. At times, we were up to almost 20 days out.
Yeah, 20 days out. So the fact that we are within 3 days, I hope our partners in the community are seeing the impact of that and appreciating that, and that needs to be retold as well directly to the community. Then lastly, on page 4 of the report on ADUs, I misquoted the number. I was talking to the mayor earlier. So just want to be clear, so this year to date, 14 ADUs have been permitted, is that the?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay. And I can't remember what the benchmark was prior to us changing our zoning policy where we only had done like 3 or 5 in 8 years or something like that. Do you know collectively how many have been approved since we've changed our zoning on ADUs?
I don't off the top of my head, but I can get you that number unless Ms. Turkelson knows.
Okay. All right. Well, just you can come back and get it. Okay.
Very good.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Great. And Ms. Behrens is coming up to update us on ongoing
Ongoing things, just some general verbal updates for everybody's awareness. So 2 things we presented on in the past. One is the fiscal year 2025 Third Ward Equity Fund allocation for small business support. Last time we spoke about that, we were talking about transferring funds to the Economic Development Corporation for a revolving loan fund. We highlighted at the time that kind of on the theme of today's conversation, where would that revolving loan fund fit within the rest of the ecosystem of providing funds for small businesses. So we have some meetings on our calendars coming up to talk to other funders in the ecosystem to understand what the gaps are that this could fill. So we don't yet have an agreement with the EDC. So expecting to bring that forward in the first quarter of next year. Just wanted to update folks that those conversations were ongoing. We also were able to present to the Southtown CIA, the concept that we presented last month of a shared public-private position that would be focused on South Grand Rapids execution and implementation of a lot of the plans and visions that have a lot of alignment and overlap. So that was well received at the Southtown CIA, and so continued conversation with public and potentially private partners and funding that position and scoping out that body of work. Again, anticipate something in the first couple months of the new year. It's hard to imagine we're saying that now, but first couple months of the new year on kind of a scope and a budget and an area of focus and kind of a 3-year plan for that position. So updates to come on that, but that conversation is also ongoing. And then just many of you probably saw the news, but for the amphitheater facility, new lineup announced, or their opening lineup announced. Lots of work along the river, if you have seen that. Lots of work along the river to both deliver that project and the adjacent trail, but also a lot of the Greenway network projects are going forward. So a lot to be done and finished up in 2026. We will be firing on all cylinders to get those projects delivered. So a lot of great work happening there. And we are moving fast and furious on the in-river channel improvement work as well. So hoping to just button up some final federal processes and bringing that project forward to bid in the next week or two. So a lot of great work happening around the river, lots of persistence. It's finally seeing some shovels in the ground and backhoes out there. So just wanted to update folks on that. Happy to answer questions on anything if you have them, or prepare a more in-depth update for a future meeting if there's a topic of particular interest to this group.
Thanks. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank Ms. Behrens for the update. And she gave a very high level, made it look real easy, but there's a lot of work behind that. And the fact that we are still moving forward with some of the work that required a lot of federal permitting and approval, and with a month or so shutdown is also incredible. You said 45 days? 45-day shutdown. So, and we still seem to be on target even with some of those federally funded and supported projects.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the update. Appreciate it. All right, and I'm going to adjourn us, which gives us 23 minutes, I think.